This program is part of the Scene Projects Podcast Network. Welcome into the Get Better Together Project with your hosts, Bubba and Sarah. This show's all about being honest with your friends and yourself. Listen to our weekly check-ins and become part of our community. That's how we all get better together. Enjoy the show. Well, welcome into a very exciting episode of Get Better Together with Bubba and Sarah. I am Bubba Startz. My co-host Sarah Canida is here. And with us today is our friend and fellow compatriot in getting better, Sage Falls. Welcome to the show, Sage.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Hi,
Well,
Sage.
we're just getting to know each other a little bit on the Zoom. I said, screw it. Let's just hit record and everybody can get to know us at the same time. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit about who you are and who you were, and then we'll get into who you are now.
Yeah, again, my name's Sage. It's kind of a broad question. But no secret that I've struggled with addiction most of my life. Firm believer that I was born an addict. So it's a pretty common story for me that I've heard. It's things, surgeries, and then the opiate wave, the opiate epidemic. I was a product of that, or a victim of that. I don't know what you would call that. And legal troubles got me into the rooms of a fellowship, and yeah, I just tried to do it my way for a long time, and finally got beat down enough to make some changes, some lasting changes. And yeah, I got a couple kids and breaking the cycle. I don't know how much you want me to go into more of that story, but yeah, ask away.
This is all about you, man. You feel free to share as much as you want to. I know Sarah's going to have questions as well. So Sarah, why don't you kind of jump in now and off the rip kind of introduce yourself a little bit and get to know Sage, and you can ask a question.
Well, I'm Sarah Canida. I got a business called Sarah Does. I do social media marketing, influencing, stuff like that. And then I also constantly work on my own mental health, self-care, trauma, all that stuff. And I struggle myself with addiction. I was a addict to smoking cigarettes for my whole life, ever since I was 11 until, let's see, I quit 8, 9 years ago. And then drinking has been another thing, that I just struggle with. So those are my addictions, but I'm done with smoking. But now the alcohol is the one that, especially when you're out and about doing stuff all the time, like events and people and socializing, it's like I used to be able to run outside and smoke a cigarette. Now I can't. So now it's like, oh, well, I'll have a glass of champagne or a shot of tequila. So that's my struggles. I did just sage, which is so funny. And this, the moment, I didn't even know what your name was or anything about this situation today, but I was saging right before I called you guys. So that's super cool. I love that name. And that's a little bit about me. I have 5 kids, grandbaby. So I know the struggle of wanting to be the best parent that you can be, and always thinking that you're never enough, probably.
Yeah.
As a parent, that's how I feel every single day. Like, did I do enough? Did I do this? I'm the worst mom in the world. But no, they just want to see you get better. I know that. They want to see you be the best that you can try to be and follow along in your footsteps. I have a son too that's 22 that has a 5-year-old, and that's been a struggle also because he had a baby at a very young age, and he has struggled with his own who knows what, because I'm his mom, he doesn't tell me. But him being a dad, they're separated now, the mother and him, and he lives about 6 hours away from his child, and that's been a struggle for him. So I try to just lead him in the right direction. And so I can kind of see where you're coming from with just trying to be a better parent, and you can't be an addict and try to be a good parent at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, something that's really shifted this last year was like leaning on other people too. You know, it's like not to divulge like what fellowship, but I mean it's called a fellowship, and that was one thing I never really did because I would always like compare myself to other people and think that my struggles were different, but like breaking down those barriers. I mean, everybody's going through a struggle, and I mean, everybody. And you really start to, when you pull back that curtain and stop looking for the differences and look more on the similarities. That's really shifted so much for everything in my life, for this recovery process, my mental health, all of it. And yeah, what you mentioned, about never being enough, that for me, like that was like that started way before kids for me. And I think a lot of it's broken home stuff. It's like core beliefs from childhood stuff, and I mean it's like, and don't really got to do work to figure that stuff out, why I feel like that. But yeah, it's a constant struggle. And as far as the substances go, like cigarettes, alcohol, like my lady, my partner, she's always embarrassed when we go into the fellowship because she and it says like only addicted to weed. It's the behaviors, right? It's like it doesn't matter what the substance is, it's the behaviors. But like I'm always like the things that are legal, like alcohol and weed. Well, weed's legal over here. Um, it's like it's so embedded in our culture that it's like unusual if you don't do it in social settings, which is like it's a tough one to navigate through if you're an addict.
Yeah, for sure. The addiction is, it doesn't matter what it is, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing is, and then when you stop one addiction, like when I stopped smoking, my doctor, I had such horrible anxiety. I mean, just the worst. And he
yeah,
said I was using that as my medication, self-medicating myself. And so then when that was gone, okay, well then now I'm going to start drinking. Now I'm going to instead at events and social events have drinks instead. And then if I were to quit that, then it turns into sugar. All of a
yeah,
sudden I love sugar so
yeah,
much and all I want to do is eat candy. And so
yeah,
there's always something when we are addicts, and then when we come from addiction, if you maybe had it sounds like maybe home life growing up could have been a problem in some way. I also had major difficult home life, and
yeah,
addiction runs in my family. And and so yeah, it's just a constant everyday struggle. From the outside we can look as normal as possible to some people, but they don't know what we're struggling with internally every single day.
Well, and
right,
I think something that, a lot of, healers or, the fellowships, what they talk about is that, these substances we're trying to use these substances or these people, right? Or, it could be a porn addiction. It could be anything. You're using all
yeah,
these different things to fill this hole inside of yourself, right? And I think if you're not doing the work to find out what that hole is inside of you, you're going to go to the next thing and you're going to keep going
yeah,
down the assembly line. Oh, well, I don't smoke crack anymore, but
yeah,
I filled it with all this other terrible things for me, and it just like that's an addiction in the brain, right? It's those pathways that we've walked so many times, and we continue to walk them and kind of stumble back into them because they're familiar,
yeah,
right? They're not, and all of us, man. I think I speak for all of us. Probably, Sarah's smoking cigarettes at 11. I was definitely smoking a lot of pot by 13, 14 years old and drinking and all these things. Like, you're not even a fully developed person yet. Your brain isn't developed. And now you're throwing all of these chemicals on top of it, and what you may be going through, you're not even processing that, if you're even able to as a teenager to process these huge things, coming from broken homes or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yep.
right.
Yep. For sure. So how are you doing now? Let's talk about that for a minute. So you quit opiates,
Yeah,
right?
so I mean, honestly, like this was a kind of a struggle for me to make the decision. to get back into working a program in the fellowship because like my addictions looked way worse. Like I'm gonna just give time frames like 2011 through 2014, it was at its peak. And so like even though things luckily I had got a little taste of what recovery looks like during that time frame. So there's two things that come with that though, it's like once you get a taste of that and you go back to running amok or doing whatever substance you had an issue with, you have this turmoil. So it's like yeah, that battle is because there's a solution out there. So I struggled with that for a long time. But so yeah, like was saying, my addiction, my active addiction, when I came back last December, or I guess not last December, 23 December, wasn't it's like I guess I feel like I can just divulge the substances. I'm so used to not no, war storing about the substances, but so like I would do some cocaine every once in a while, and so like I'm like I think I got this under control, and it's like took quite a few times of that to realize my lady and my daughter are hostages in this situation. And so anyway, yeah, I had enough of my own shit and made the decision to do that. So in this last year, where we're at, it's trickled into my family, this decision. Like my mom, she was a pretty severe alcoholic, highly functioning alcoholic though. She's got like 9 months sober. My lady, she's about to get 6 months clean. So yeah, it's this ripple effect. We're like it's not just going through the motions of life. Like there's like major plans going on. Like we're able, I mean, it's this is all surfacey stuff, but it's like we're looking at houses. We just bought her a new car 2 days ago. Or I don't want to say financially free, but it's like we're not worried about money. My relationship, my other child is not he's so much a child. He's 14, and very very mature for his age. His mother and me have a really strong relationship. We actually do like blended family gatherings for the holidays. Yeah, so I'm very present for my family, and I'm the rock, and more so than all that like outside looking in stuff that you could probably see. It's like the noise between my ears is I don't want to say it's quiet, but it's never been at this it's never been this tolerable. Let's put it that way. It's like I would like to sit here and say like I feel like I'm serene. I have my moments, it's like my addiction has surfaced in other areas, they're not substances, but like shopping and weird stuff, it's but yeah, I mean it's my relationships outside of my family, man, it's like that I get emotional about that, just how people show up for me. It's just I got a real community here in Bend. We talk about wanting to leave all the time because I don't really like what's happening to the area so much with like the population, but we're both on the same page that we couldn't ever leave the community, not at this point. So yeah, I mean, it's turned into a life I've thought was fantasy in just a short amount of time, just doing the work, really doing the work when it gets tough, leaning on the people that showed up for me at the beginning. Yeah.
How do you do it social situations when, going places? Do you have anxiety? Do you have,
Yeah, so I mean, I don't. We honestly, my life is pretty monotonous. Aside from the fellowship, which is like I do service positions where I'm talking to I'm facilitating like 100 people, a meeting with 100 people. That was like high anxiety. I get anxiety at first, but I like I'm not at like bars or anything like that. Like it's been a while since we've been to a concert. I'm not. I'm like that. I don't even know. It's like I'm an introvert sometimes and an extrovert sometimes. Like I don't know what that is,
I'm
but
the same way as
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Exactly.
And I can't tell you why it's this way this day and complete opposite the next. I don't know what that's about. But yeah, I mean, my my anxiety, I don't feel like I need to use something about it. But it's like yeah, I'm not like into small talk too much. I never have been. So those conversations will make me super uncomfortable.
Me too. And we've
Yeah.
had this conversation on here.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of networking.
Yeah.
Well, I need to be, and I want to be doing a lot of networking, but I get to those situations. I walk in the room and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. There's hundreds of women or people, and all of a sudden I'm like, ah. And then,
Yeah.
yes, just I'm the person hiding in the corner looking like I just don't want to talk to anybody, but that's not true. I hate those situations because everybody is, oh, hi, you do this, you do that. Oh,
Yeah.
tell me about this. And I'm just like, it's just so, I don't know. I like connection. I can sit down like me and you right now. We could sit on here for hours and just sit and chat and talk about life and stuff like that. But just to do the hi, what's your name? What do you do? And then move on to the next person is just like it's like nails on a chalkboard for me.
Yeah.
And I try because work, if you want your work to be really, really noticed by people and stuff like that, you kind of got to do that stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm getting to a point now where I'm just like, I'll push myself a little bit, but don't overdo myself. I don't have to be at every networking event, at every women's meeting event, luncheon, things like that. It's like, because if it's going to cause me that much stress, it's like, just don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm smiling like an idiot because Sarah is just beginning to understand that this is her networking now, right? This is maybe only our fourth or fifth episode that we've done. And at first, she didn't even want to do it really. And then it was like, you know what? I got to get this stuff out. And it's really bringing her out of her shell because we want to have deep healing conversations. Like, I
Right.
want my conversations to mean something. I
Yeah.
can't do this superficial kind of this thing all the time that we do in public and put on these masks and
Yeah.
just like I just don't want to do that anymore. I've been carrying this weight with me and these burdens and all of this stuff that we're all carrying. It's like you said, Sage, everybody's going through something. And until, people like us, obviously me and Sarah, very public figures, but are you still tattooing as well?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like on the networking part of that. Like, I bet I'm really fortunate. I've tattooed in this area for this is like this October will be 17 years, so just over 16 years. And like I've got a decent reputation, so like I don't have to network to make money, but
But there's
it's
different struggles to that. And I don't mean to cut you off, but
yeah,
people who get tattoos are, I mean, and not to throw any shade at us, I'm covered, man, right?
yeah,
But we tend to be people who are addicts, that are in
yeah.
active addiction, that are, so you're constantly kind of in
Or
this
daddy
position.
issues.
Well,
Yes,
and
I
just
may
all
have
of
some
it
daddy issues.
without having to go out, Sage. I guess what I'm getting at is that you're in that position just by going to work every day. You're
Yeah,
around these people just by going to work, and maybe with 17 years of experience, you can hand select who you work on a little bit better. But if
yeah.
you're in a shop, you don't know who's walking through that door.
Yeah, we got a really controlled environment. Believe it or not, like the majority of my clients are people in recovery at this point because what do you know? You stop partying or doing your active addiction thing. You start getting money in your pocket. So it's like a lot of people in recovery get tattooed. The recovery community where I'm so fortunate is just massive in Bend right now, and it's just growing like exponentially at an alarming rate, man. It's not working out there too well for people, I guess.
Brother,
But
it wasn't working in 2009 when I was out there. You know
yeah,
what I mean? I had
yeah,
friends die of an overdose. We were like
yeah.
19, 20, 21 years old.
Yeah, I mean that's it's always been bad. This fentanyl thing, it's just it's a different different beast, man. Like me alone, like last year, I lost my best friend and an ex-girlfriend, and that's a really common story around, I mean, everywhere around here. It's like it's dropping like flies. If you use that, it's like coin toss, like literally every time. It's nasty shit.
Sage, I'm lucky to be alive. I don't know how many pills I popped without asking what was in it out there, all the ecstasy and LSD and all the drugs that I consumed in that town, right?
Yeah,
I'm a South Dakota kid. I grew up in Deadwood. We didn't have access like that to everything. So when I
yeah,
landed out there, 18, 19, 20 years old, with already a penchant for wanting to get high, man, I would give it to me. Cool. I hit
yeah,
the buffet line.
right.
If I was to land out there now, no doubt I would have been dead. I would have overdosed on fentanyl a long time ago
Yeah,
without ever knowing that I took fentanyl, right?
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, like the majority, as far as I know, it's like you don't, if you're an opiate addict and that's your get down, like you don't really have an option but to do fentanyl anymore. There's like there's nothing else. Like that's all there is. So it's like you're kind of forced to do that if you're an opiate addict. It's not saying that heroin's better, but it's
It's not killing people like fentanyl is.
not like fentanyl. Yeah.
This stuff is engineered to kill. I
Yeah.
don't even know anybody that takes it for pain. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
I know one person who is addicted to fentanyl. That's it. I mean, in this area, very young. He was living in a different state. I've known him since he was young, and now he's in his 20s, and he went through some shit. Oh my gosh, his family's helped him with so much. He's such a good kid too that I'm like, it's so sad to even think about that he had to struggle with all of this. But but he's made it through and he's doing a really good job. I just wrote a letter for him to the court system about how much, how great he's doing and being a reference for him. And
Awesome.
I was very lucky. I have tried almost everything. We'll just say that way many years ago.
Yeah.
And I have never tried fentanyl ever, but I've tried a lot of other things and I was lucky to just never really care to keep doing them. And so
Yeah.
except for the smoking cigarettes and drinking. And those are my things that I've struggled with. But yeah, all the other stuff trying many times, I'm just like I don't like that. I don't like
Yeah.
that feeling. I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to to the point of, at 18 years old, myself hiding myself in a bedroom for 4 days. And finally my friends coming and saying, okay, Sarah, this is not good. This is not good. And me realizing, okay, I never need to do that again or whatever. I won't get into what all those things are because I do have a family that watches all my stuff that I do and their high school friends and all of that. So
Yeah.
but I've tried those things and I was lucky to walk away from that stuff.
yeah, all you
And
kids just know Mama Sarah knows some stuff and she's
Uh,
gonna know if you're fucked up.
she does know some stuff. Let's just say the first time that I did something, oh my gosh, this is actually kind of a funny story. I was 11 the first time I was asked to try, well, to just throw this out there, LSD. And I said, okay, let's try that out at 11. And oh my gosh, I was supposed to be spending the night at a friend's house. Nobody was supposed to know about that. I was like so messed up, so crazy messed up. And then all of a sudden, my mom calls and goes, where are you? You're supposed to be home. And I'm like, back to reality, like, holy crap, I thought I was spending the night somewhere. So I had to go hang out with my mom. I still remember we had baby kittens and we were in in the porch and these baby kittens are crawling all over me and I'm just like she's like, are you okay, Sarah? And I'm like, no, mom, I just smoked a lot of weed. I just smoked a lot of weed, mom, and I'm just really stoned and the cats are all over. She said, okay, go to your room, you are grounded. And I went up in my room and laid there for about 7 hours. It felt like it was the most horrible 7 hours of my life. Yeah, 11 years old, don't want to be doing that. But that's with who you surround yourself with. I had older people that
yeah.
were coming to me, and I'm talking 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. They were coming to me. They thought I was cool, and they're saying, hey, try this, smoke this, do that. And I'm just like, okay, because I wanted to be cool and you want to be liked. And just like every other young middle schooler, probably not middle schooler, but teenager, high schooler, but I was the one that said yes because I wanted to be cool.
My
Yeah.
son's 12. He's in sixth grade. You're a fifth grader, fifth or
Yeah,
sixth grader. Like that's
I
crazy.
know. Well,
I
that's
thought I
because
did
of the
drugs
fact.
early at eighth grade, right? Eighth, ninth grade. And you have me beat by 3, 4 years. That's
Well,
wild.
let's just say I lived in South Dakota, grew up in South Dakota, and then my parents got a divorce, well, multiple divorces, things like that. And then we moved to North Carolina. We lived just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was, 9, 10, 11 years old. And there it was a whole nother story. It was alcohol, smoking, drugs. My mom, my mother, my sister doing drugs, all that stuff. And I'm just a young little girl. And all of a sudden, yeah, try this, try that, do this, do that. Yeah, you can smoke cigarettes. And it is kind of like a gateway. I guess the way things that went for me was, okay, Sarah smokes at 11. Give her some weed, have her smoke some weed and see I still remember the first time I did that. And that was like, whoa, it wasn't just a little bit, it was a lot. And then the next thing, oh, alcohol, then acid, then this, then that. And so I was so lucky, especially with my family being addicts, to not ever continue to want to do something like that. And so the fentanyl thing is just, I don't know, and it's scary because I bring this up and he knows this. I was a police officer, and so I dealt with overdoses and um just watching that and hearing about the fentanyl right when it first came about. And I've never seen it. I don't know anybody except for that one kid that's recovered from it. But yeah, it sounds terrible. Absolutely
Yeah.
terrible.
It's everywhere too. It's just everywhere. At least on the West Coast. I don't know what it's like anywhere else besides where I'm at. I mean, watch news and get information from there. But West Coast, it's yeah, it's really bad out here.
So
Is it very addictive?
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah.
the problem is?
I have my own experience with it too. Like, it was the last time yeah, like it's been since my lady and I've been together, so it's like within the last 3 years. Like, and it, I was lucky she woke up. I was in our second bedroom. She had a really terrible pregnancy. It was highly stressful. It almost killed her, and I had a really hard time dealing with it. Just be coward because making it about me. But yeah, so I got loaded one night, and just one time, it's like luckily she woke up in the middle of the night and walked by the bedroom. She got and like noticed I was laying down in the spare bedroom. Thought that was odd, but don't know how long I was out for. But yeah, you had to go through the whole Narcan thing and to the hospital. But yeah, it's very very addictive. Because it's like unlike heroin too, it's really the high is not it doesn't last very long at all. So it's like really high, and then you got to use again pretty quickly. And I don't even know what the prices are on it, but I know like I see a lot of people, and I have enough experience with addiction to know like that person's meth, that person's opiates, whatever. And I mean, I don't know. It's got to be cheap because the homeless population keeps growing, and they're staying loaded. Our homeless population in Bend, you never thought that that would really be a thing, but it's exponentially growing.
Well, even here in Lead, I
Yeah,
mean, I don't have people coming up to me asking me to do whatever because I'm sure they know I don't do that, but you can tell. And I
yeah,
hate to be judgmental like that, but I'm not being judgmental. You can look at somebody and say, okay, that person, drinks a lot of alcohol. That person probably is doing meth. That person's
yeah,
probably this. And it's just we do have a lot of.
Well, and a little backstory on our hometown. Sarah and I kind of grew up in the same area, but Deadwood, South Dakota, famous from the HBO series. I mean, they have legalized gambling. So you can only imagine the vibe that the town has. It's all
Yeah.
massive events with full of drinking and like the whole thing is just the party, the party, the party.
Mhm.
But then a lot of people who
Tourists.
work in that industry, similar to, Sarah, I'm sure I know she's worked around it. But having, spouses or whatever that are inside of it, it's hard to get away from that scene, right? Of that
Yeah.
party scene. And not everybody's doing meth all night, but everybody's drinking, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the entry level, right? Like everybody gets loaded and binge drinks every weekend. And that's like
Yeah.
your base level. So to start throwing other substances on top of that is a very small step.
Well,
Yeah.
and a lot of cocaine. That's
Yeah.
another
Right.
thing. Is
It's
there's a
abundant here too.
shitload of cocaine, and the difference about that is you can be a totally functioning, have a great, amazing job, all this stuff, and do cocaine, and
Yeah.
people don't know that. And I do know some major figures around the area in the Black Hills here that are doing cocaine, and I'm just
Yeah.
thinking it's still a drug. It's still it's still going to at some point come down on you and you're going to hit some sort of rock bottom. So, but yeah, that's the okay drug that probably
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
people
Totally.
around
Yeah. It
here.
seems like the people I know that that still go out. It's almost as socially acceptable as alcohol. It seems like these days. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I definitely have been offered that. We'll say that. Hey, you want to
Yeah.
do some cocaine? And I'm just like, I don't really do cocaine.
That's
Oh,
such an
okay.
odd
No, cool.
question to
Okay,
ask
bye.
someone at the bar.
I'm
Uh,
trying to no, yeah, I've been asked at bars. You'll be in the bathroom, just hanging out in the bathroom, and all of a sudden a girl's just like, "Hey, whipping it out right there. Hey, you want to do some cocaine?" I'm like, "No, I'm okay. I'm okay." But yeah, I'm 42 years old. I got 5 kids. I got jobs. I got my own shit I got to deal with. I don't need a cocaine addiction. That's for damn sure.
And we're just kind of coming to why we have this show. Why this show has become what it is because we're the ones that are old enough to know better. And
yeah.
I don't feel comfortable having this conversation with my kids, but I don't mind them going back on YouTube and finding this conversation. Right. I've already told them I'm kind of leaving this stuff as a legacy for you. So if I am gone, God forbid, that you have some of these lessons and you know who your father is, where it's not appropriate to me to go and talk to my 9 and 10-year-old about all the drugs that I've done and all the situations that I've been in and how I've come through it and how they've made me a better person. That's not a conversation you have with your 9-year-old. But
Yeah.
for them to find it when they're 16 or something and to know that that's out there, I feel like that's important. And I think it's important to not just my kids, but to Sarah's kids, to Sage's kids, like as all these young people, for kids that aren't ours, right? To find this show and to find some help and for that to be a pathway to a fellowship, right? And you've talked about it several times. You're organizing meetings for 100 people. Obviously, there's a need for that in Bend,
Yeah.
especially. Can you kind of talk about? I mean, obviously, you can't divulge a whole lot anonymity. I'm gonna say NA for you, Sage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you just talk about the importance, at least to yourself, of now being in that leadership role to kind of be able to share your story and to help others feel comfortable sharing theirs?
Well, as much as it sounds like a leadership role, it's actually, I mean, it's a service position, it's a secretary of a meeting. And anytime I get asked to do anything recovery related, like, well, I'll get asked to go into like a rehabilitation facility um, and spread the message. And, it's like experience, strength, and hope. As much as as much as it sounds like a leadership position, I do this to stay clean because I got to a place, when you're young, you think you know everything. I tested the theory enough times to 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 know that I don't know shit about this, and I started listening to the guys that had significant time, and that's one of the things that they said you got to do. You got to get a service position. So that's I'm probably like 6 months into that position, and then when that's up, I'll get another one. And it's really not. I wish that I was like leading 100 addicts. I'm just doing what the next guy
Well,
or what
it's a stepping stone, and what
yeah,
it is, and
totally.
it's an accountability position,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's so easy, Sage, I think we probably have a lot of similarities, man. It's easy for me to go to a meeting and be like, "Yep, I'm gonna get better," and then go out and do what the hell I was gonna do anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've been that guy. It's a lot harder for me, and especially now, this shows our accountability, right? Like this is mine and Sarah's showing up and going, hey, we fucked up,
Yeah.
or hey, we're doing really good. Like whatever side of the coin it is, this is our check-in, at least on a small scale. So, what you're doing is, while not technically a leadership position, you are leading by example of showing up
Yeah.
and being accountable to these other, young men and women that are on day one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I can't tell you how good, like at the end of a meeting, they'll ask, does anybody with a year or more have, will you please raise your hand? And like, I can't tell you to like be a part of that club now, like what a good feeling that is. And you said it, that's the example. Yeah, it's just, if I could, I'm trying to like when I speak at meetings, I really try to share like how difficult it is or try to steer people away from trying to figure it out your own way because I did that shit from 2011 until this last year. Would put a little bit of time together, go back out, do some more research, come back broken, that just it's honestly it's harder to do that than to just stay fucked up. So I
And
really
that's another pathway that a lot of people get trapped in is I'm going
yeah,
to get better for a little while and then I'm going to go back to doing my own thing and then I'm going to screw it all up and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to get better for a while and like that
yeah.
can be its own addiction of just the experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you put like in early recovery, you put like 30 days together and you think you got this. It's like, oh, I think, I'm not an addict. I just put 30 days together, not doing whatever substance. And then you go back out and it's way worse. It just gets worse.
Well, it can
Yeah.
be the same way with all these people keep calling me. I might need to answer this. Maybe put me on mute. How do I do that? Mute. All these phone calls keep.
Oh, we'll stop her video now for a little bit too.
Yeah.
We'll give her a break on this one. She's a busy lady, Sage.
No worries.
No, well, and that's yeah, it's really easy to think that you got to figure it out, right? I
Yeah.
experienced it more in prison, right? Where guys would get out. I was in for about 2 years, and I was in a medium facility, which was kind of the central hub, right? So we have three minimum units in South Dakota spread across the state, and that's kind of where um that is where like there's more drugs in the prison than there
Yeah.
is on the streets, right?
Yeah.
And I was really grateful to be in that medium and to have the programs that they had, the treatment, and like for me, a
I'm
lot of
back.
my using was I'll bring you back, Sarah. I got you. Um, you'll have to click something yet too, but yeah, what I was seeing was the people getting out and just coming right back in, man. You were right, like, dude, you were gone for 2 weeks. How do you
Yeah.
even? But
Yeah.
you're
I
addicted to
was one
that
of those
cycle.
I was one of those people. I fortunately, by the grace of God, never made it to prison. I don't know. I was on a downward departure for a long time, and I don't know how my PO didn't send me to prison, but I did the in and out of jail thing like that. Like, like for like 4 years, it would be like 2 weeks. Like you just said it, like get out, come back 2 weeks later, sometimes only out for the weekend. Yeah, that sucked.
So, what are your self-care tips now that you're not using? And what are you doing when you're not tattooing, when you're not with your child? What do you do for yourself?
Yeah, so snowboarding used to be a huge part of my life. I actually took this year off. I got again like talking about the behaviors. So even though I quit using drugs, my addiction is in full effect right now, and it's I got a couple friends that are further along this journey, but like we're really into guns and training with our guns, and that has become like a huge, and it's just sharing that with a couple guys that I love and respect. My lady's brother-in-law is one of them. But honestly, like I was talking about, man, my life is pretty monotonous. I only go to a couple meetings a week. I would like to go to more, but raising, my daughters too, and we are in the terrible twos right now for sure. Um, it's my lady and I spend a lot of time just chilling at home, trying to get better about exercising, but I'm usually up early. The mornings are my alone time. It's like whether I decide to just sit, and drink my coffee. I vape still, my vape and my coffee, and I'll do a little bit of book work sometimes. But I used to be really physical. It's something that's kind of fallen off, not kind of fallen off. It's something that's fallen off this last year. I'm just much more hands-on parent. Not that that's an excuse. I can create the time, and it's on my goals right now to get back into physical stuff. But
That's
yeah,
my
I
goals
walk.
too.
Yeah.
yeah,
I walk. That's the one thing where I walk 2 miles a day. I've had a few days off now and I can feel it. I can feel my body wants to
yeah,
move in just that little bit. And my wife and I, we go to the gym and she works me out pretty hard when we get there. And we're trying to be more consistent with that. But yeah, I got to move, man. And if
yeah,
anything, it's to clear this. It's
yeah,
not even really about the body as much as just like that returning to, that prayer or meditative state that I get in when I'm walking. And it can be around the pond in my little town, or it can be, on the treadmill in my garage. And it kind of has the same benefits to it. It lets me, streamline those thoughts a little bit and to leave the other ones behind.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I'm in need of as well is I am a yoga instructor, but I have not been teaching for a little while because there's just because. And so I have been doing a lot of this, but it's work on the computer, on the phone, on the whatever. And so I think that's why my mentality has been just freaking out of whack lately, is because I have so much built up energy that I don't know what to do with it. So it's putting me into anxious mode all the time. And so it just once you're like out of the routine though, it's so hard to get back into it. So I'm trying to
yeah,
figure out, it's like in my mind, it's like just to go on a walk outside right now. Well, it's snowing, it's cold here in South Dakota. Just to go do that is like it just seems so overwhelming. But once you get back into it, then you get in a routine and I'm so out of routine. So I need
yeah.
to do that as well.
I've gone in and out of it, like that's just when it hurts bad enough, you do something different. That's ultimately what it boils down to, and I'm right at that threshold right now. Like my body does not like to sit still. You said it already. It's I'm not designed to be still like this, and yeah, it's any day here we'll
And
get
brother, you
moving.
got a beautiful town to go walk around in, man.
Yeah,
I loved living in Bend. I
yeah,
loved it, man. I hit it at a right time. I know you're friends with some of the Slipmat Science crew. I just kind of
yeah,
want to end on a positive note because there are some great, great people that I love dearly in that town still. I mean,
yeah,
looking at the seven peaks every day lined up
yeah.
and to see the
Oh, it's
three sisters,
beautiful.
like, man, it's a beautiful place and it has all the mountain sports and all of these things. But right now, it's got a lot of sick, hurting people,
Yeah,
and I think that energy is probably weighing you down a little bit too because you see them. You
yeah,
see these people, and to know when your community is that, it's hard to go out and to smile and act like it's all okay when you know for a fact that your town is sick
yeah,
and it's hurting.
yeah.
Let me
I
ask
mean,
you a question. How
yeah.
far away is Bend from Arcata, California?
Ooh, what's the
Ar
Arcata?
Arcata's right on the coast,
Yeah,
and
so it's close
Emerald
to like
Triangle, yeah,
Humboldt and
Eureka.
Arcata,
stuff, right? Yeah.
It's
Eureka.
like
Uh,
Eureka.
I want to say that that's like 8 hours from Grants Pass. We're another three from Grants Pass, Medford area. So 10, 11 hours.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't
I thought
think
it was
I think
closer.
it's shorter than that. I think from Grants Pass it's only like 3 or 4 hours to get down there to Arcata. It's
See,
not
Really?
as far south, I don't think.
I used to live in Arcata,
But
so
still, yeah, 7, 8 hours.
when I was 18, we took off and somebody said, I was like, should we go to Florida or should we go to California? We hopped in the car and the song on the radio came on, the California song. So we said, all right, California. Car
Uh,
breaks down halfway. we end up hitchhiking all the way. Somebody says, go to Arcata. That's where all the homeless people live for fun. You can live in the woods. And so I did. And I did that for 2 years. I worked at a homeless shelter there, would walk for miles. I don't even think you know any of this, Bubba, probably.
No, this is all
Yeah,
new to me.
so no, this is where I became really cool. Okay. I walked miles a day just to work at this homeless shelter there in Arcata, and just so I could have a cup of coffee and wash my clothes and take a shower every single day. And that's where I learned to cook. But Arcata was super cool. And so I was gonna ask you because I thought Bend was only like 2 hours away. But
No, it's on the east side of the Cascades. Bend's quite a ways away, but like the
okay.
Oregon's not far. Like Crescent City's 2 hours from Arcata or
Yeah.
less, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
So
Crescent
Yeah.
City, I used to sleep on the beach there. So I lived in the woods and I also would sleep on the Crescent City beach. And
I didn't know about your homeless days, Sarah.
oh yes, I chose to be homeless. And that's
Me
where I
Yeah.
too.
became really freaking cool. And that's what a lot of people don't know about me. And I think that's why I'm not like a typical South Dakota girl, is because yeah, I cooked for the homeless every single day, but I was homeless and I loved doing it. Like we cooked the best food because the grocery stores, all those co-ops, they throw the food
Yep.
away the day that it's got that due date. And so then we would get it all. And so I was cooking like the best soups, the best salads, the best sourdough breads, we had the best of the best food there. And lots of cool stuff. But I was wondering if Arcata is dealing with the same type of situation. Do they still have the big homeless population that
I'm
choose
sure
to
it's
be
only gotten
homeless?
worse since then, Sarah.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know.
I bet.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, Eugene, I know, I keep up with some friends there as well, obviously on the other side of the mountains. I mean, it was bad in 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't gotten any better. I mean, I was out there when I really felt like it started, and it was just pills. It was, they still had the old, the OxyContin 40s that you had to peel the time release off of. And
Yeah.
that's what everybody was kind of doing when I got out of college or, out of high school and was that age. And now it's just so much worse. And it's such a shame because that's some of the most beautiful areas on the whole planet, and all of these beautiful, amazing, talented individuals out there, right? I mean, everybody's a tattoo artist or a musician or a producer or a rapper, or like everybody's super artistic, which leaves them probably a little susceptible to recreational drug use, which is a slippery slope, man. It's going to take you
Yeah.
right into, needing it, right? Especially with the opiates and stuff. So, yeah, I think what you're doing, Sage, being involved in your fellowship, that's the start, man. To have people that are in active addiction look to you, a guy that looks like you with your tattoos on your head, and being
Yeah.
someone more familiar to them than some guy who had a cocaine habit, but he's a real white collar dude, right? That guy
Right.
sharing his story of being a cocaine addict in the 80s doesn't have the same hit that it does coming from someone like you.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming the demographics on your fellowship right now are probably people your age and younger.
I mean, it's all over the board. It's all over the board. Yeah. Like my previous sponsor, I just got a new one. He's 40 years clean, 77. There, he's got a group of friends that are all relatively close to his age, and then there's teenagers in the rooms. It's all over the board.
And that's who we're
You know
trying to
what?
save, right? To get to those teenagers and to
Yeah.
tell them our stories and to get this out and like, hey man,
Yeah.
you're not going to live through the shit that we did, right?
Yeah.
Like the drugs are different now, man. Like
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah, you
have
can't
that
trust
option.
anything. You can't trust anything. And that's what my boyfriend says all the time now, too. He'll say, it's just anything can be laced with anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Do
Yeah.
not trust anything from anyone. And I want to do a little video if you're cool with that, because I like to make a short form video for our social media to promote this episode. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you a question and then I'm going to record it with my phone. Let me see if I can
Okay.
see it, if you're cool with that. And the
Yeah.
question, I'll give you a second to think about it. But and then I'll repeat it when I start the video, but I'll say, what would you want to tell, these high schoolers and, all these younger kids now about, um, I don't know, what would you want to tell them now about how to stay away from that? Or I don't know, what's a good question for this, Bubba? Help me out
Well,
with
I
this.
would just say, one that a good a podcaster that I love, Ryan Sickler, has the Honeydew, and they share stories like this all the time. But he always says, "What advice do you have for your 16-year-old self?" Right?
Okay, that's
So,
great.
yeah,
You got the
what
words out of my
advice do
mouth.
you have for, kids that are struggling with mental health or addiction, and kind of framing it that way?
How about, yeah, so it'll be, what advice do you have for kids and younger people struggling with addiction? Okay, so that's going to be it. I'm going to try to get this question out. Here we go.
Okay.
So, Sage, what advice do you have and can give to younger people and kids that are struggling with addiction?
So from my own experience, the party, it looks really fun. Behind the scenes, you pull the curtain back, the party's not at all what it seems. There's a lot of misery down that road. Um, and there was at that age, there wasn't a single thing that older people would tell me that I would listen to. If I could talk to my 16-year-old self, it would be take the advice of your elders more seriously. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of these, your stories with me for the first time. You haven't met me yet, just here on video. And thank
Yeah.
you for that, giving that advice, and we will share it with our followers.
That's my pleasure.
And Sage,
Yeah,
that's it, man. I really appreciate you jumping in with us today, not really knowing
Yeah.
what you were getting into, but
Yeah.
I felt with you just kind of crossing your year, and knowing that you've been very active in that community, not just Bend, but in your fellowship as well, that we had to have you on. We had to share your story and get it out there, and we'd love to talk to you in another year when you got 2 years.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate the invitation.
yeah, and you should follow. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, follow Sarah Does, Sarah with an H, then DOES. Follow that, and I'll have a little fun little commercial with you talking to your
Sounds
16
great.
year old self. Okay.
All right. And
Thank you
for
guys.
everybody else, this is Get Better Together with Bubba and Sarah and our guest Sage. See you
Have a
next
great
time.
day, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scene Projects Podcast Network. We appreciate you listening. You can find more at thesceneprojects.com. Join our community.
Got an ocean full of love that's made for two. We sail upon the ocean breeze and sunshine.